the YouTube stream. So, all right, we're doing it right now. So we'll get you started on the YouTube channel here. If you're on YouTube, let me actually come back. YouTube.com, search WRDW News 12. Oop, not 122. All right, and then right here, you can subscribe, and we are live, but it probably just hasn't registered yet because I just started it because I was a little late this morning. There it is. And once that ad plays, we'll be live on YouTube for you to see. So that's how you do it. Also, be sure to download our WRDW streaming app on your favorite streaming device. But okay, let's get right into it. And for the first time, I think, maybe ever, we're actually going to start with sports this morning because we had some huge news from the sports world, from the world of golf yesterday. The PGA Tour and the LIV Tour, who have been at odds for a year and a half now, are joining forces along with the DP World Tour, who already partners with the PGA Tour. They're all merging together. So golf's great soap opera appears to be coming to an end or writing its next chapter. Tough to really say, but Dan Booth has reactions from players, officials, caught up with some fans as well to talk about this big news.
Good morning, everyone. With the PGA Tour, the LIV Golf Tour, and the DP World Tour all joining forces, the game of golf is in for some major changes moving forward. Shortly after the players' meeting on Tuesday night, local professional golfer Wesley Bryan got into his car and went live on Twitch to discuss the atmosphere of that meeting PGA Tour Commissioner Jay Monahan called intense and certainly heated.
I've been to a lot of these player meetings. This was spicy. It's real spicy. After Jay got done talking about all of the stuff that he was going to talk, basically talking through the announcement and apologizing for some of the hypocrisy, he opened it up for questions. And when he opened it up for questions, it was electric. There were people that spoke up that I never would have thought in a million years would have gotten that animated speaking up.
This merger might be one of the best well-kept secrets in the history of sports because the players found out when we did.
The fact of the matter is that this was a shock to a lot of people because we were not in a position to share or explain as we normally would, and that was really a result of the commitment we had made to maintaining confidentiality through the end.
Rory was in the dark, and that was one of the questions. He literally found out today that it's unbelievable how they had all of this, just 3 or 4 individuals. That was it.
The players who decided to stay and back the PGA while having offers to play for LIV Golf are riled up, and even though the divide between the tours might be coming to an end, a new one might be beginning.
Jay did get a little bit flustered, and he didn't get speechless at any point, but you could tell there was some visible frustration. Any man that was up there taking some of the torture that he was taking would have not been able to stand too strong.
As we finalize this process, I think any player that has stayed is going to realize that the money that they're going to make, the strength of this platform, all the things that we talk about are going to put them in a really strong position. They're going to win. They're going to continue to grow. And we're in a control position on their behalf as we move forward in this structure.
There was mention of the benefit, or why now at this point will we not unionize. I don't even know at all how that helps or hurts the situation.
Now, even though there's a lot about this merger we still don't know, we've heard mixed reactions from fans as well. Here's what a few of our local golfers down at the River Golf Club had to say when I spoke with them about how they feel about this earth-shattering news.
I knew it was coming, didn't know it was coming this soon. I'm glad it did before it got uglier than it should have been. Wasn't happy with the way the PGA handled it, ostracizing the guys. And it's good for golf.
As we saw during the Masters, you know, some of the LIV guys did very well, almost won. So glad to see them getting together, and I think it'll be a good thing for the Ryder Cup too.
Now you have all the top golfers back in one I guess association, so they can all be in the big events playing each other.
While most of the responses there were positive, some of the fans I spoke with as well weren't too happy about the merger, and we've seen a lot of negative responses on social media as well. It'll be interesting to say the least how this situation continues to develop in the coming days. Now that's it for sports. Have a great day, everybody.
Okay, thanks for that, Dan. And like you heard him say, there's a lot that we don't know about this deal, but here's what we do know. The Live Tour players are going to finish out their 2023 season. After that, they'll be able to reapply for their PGA Tour cards. So when they left, they got banned for life. Jay Monahan said, you want out, you're out, not coming back. Tune has changed. So now that when their season ends, they'll be able to reapply. So really, in the grand scheme of things, the Live guys won. The Live players absolutely won. Phil Mickelson won. Dustin Johnson won. Brooks Koepka won. They left for hundreds of millions of dollars in some cases. They still got to play all the majors, and at the end of the day, they get to come back. So it's hard to call anybody a loser in this case, but the Live guys absolutely got what they wanted. They won this scenario. And it's a bad look for Jay Monahan, who went on national television 1 year ago at the U.S. Open in an interview with Jim Nantz and said that he had talked to his players and asked them, have you ever had to apologize for being on the PGA Tour? Here we are a year later. Jay Monahan is joining forces with that very tour he encouraged his guys to speak out against. So that is not the best look for the head man of the PGA. And that was what a lot of players were frustrated with, as you heard in Wesley Bryan's Twitch stream that he put out there. So a lot to come out of this. You got to think guys like Rory and Tiger and Justin Thomas and Jordan Spieth, guys who had spoken out against Live and stood so firm and loyal by PGA, you got to think they're a little riled up by this, especially the way that this all went down with nobody knowing until yesterday. Usually a story like this, something's going to leak, something's going to get out. But we could talk all day about this. We don't have that much time. If you want, we have an interview with myself and John Patrick, who is WGAC Augusta Golf Guy. He is that's up on our YouTube page if you want to check that out. It's also, I believe it's up on our website as well. So some great insight from him on this whole thing too. Really just a whole big interesting scenario, and we'll have to see how it continues to play out in the coming weeks and the coming months. Okay, let's move on to some other stuff now. Columbia County commissioners tossed out two options on the table they had for Gold Cross EMS, and they created a third for the future of EMS in the county. They decided to keep Gold Cross as their EMS provider, but bring the dispatch operations in-house. Our Taylor Martin was at the meet and breaks down what this means for people in Columbia County.
It's a decision both parties say is in the best interest of Gold Cross, Columbia County, and most importantly, those they serve.
There were some options that we would either increase or decrease the supplement, and if we decrease the supplement, then obviously we would decrease service. We just didn't feel like that was the best option for our citizens.
On the table were two options. Option one would have added an extra $125,000 to the current subsidy and turned dispatch over to the county, and option two would have reduced the subsidy by $100,000 under the same provisions as option one, with some shift changes.
By us taking on that additional duty with the county, that is a savings for Gold Cross, and it's our hope that Gold Cross will be able to invest that money back into the company to be able to enhance the salaries of the paramedics.
And the third option does just that, giving Gold Cross an opportunity to maximize their resources to better serve the community and their employees.
Some of the paramedics got $3 to $4 an hour raise, EMTs got $2 to $3 an hour raise. And hopefully within the next couple of months we'll be able to do that again. I do plan to reinvest all of the savings from dispatch back into the company so we can hopefully keep the salaries up higher.
As far as the timeline, Columbia County could have EMS dispatch in their hands as soon as 2 months and as late as 6 months.
We are going to have to add a console in our 911 center. We're going to have to make sure that we hire the right personnel that understand how to dispatch EMS units. So that will take some time.
Taylor Martin reporting for us there. The Georgia Forestry Commission is mourning the loss of a forestry ranger who suffered a medical emergency while he was monitoring a contained wildfire on Sunday. Sean Daniel worked at the Johnson, Washington County Forestry Unit. He was treated by emergency responders who were not able to revive him. Officials say an internal review of his death is underway. A suspect in the murder of a 13-year-old Buddy Brown is now in jail in Richmond County after being sent from Pennsylvania, where he was originally arrested. It happened in downtown Augusta when Buddy Brown went downstairs from his apartment to pick up a food delivery. Officials say someone trying to get in the building shot Buddy in the head. Deputies say that person is Gregory Thornton. The U.S. Marshals arrested him last month. Thornton is from Baltimore, Maryland, and was staying in Augusta at the time of that shooting. As of this morning, Thornton is now in the Charles B. Webster Detention Center on several warrants, including murder. A man is dead after he was hit by a car on the Deansbridge Road at Ridge Road in Augusta. The coroner says 63-year-old John Cummings was riding in his electric wheelchair when a car hit him Saturday night. He died at the hospital. No words yet on whether the driver is facing charges. The coroner says there will not be an autopsy. The U.S. Postal Service is offering a $50,000 reward for information about a man who robbed a mail carrier over the weekend in Augusta. This happened Sunday afternoon on Carmel Circle. A postal employee says a man wearing red shorts, a red hoodie, and a ski mask approached her and pointed a knife at her chest, demanding to get the keys to her mail truck or he'd kill her. The postal worker gave the suspect the keys and he drove away towards North Lake Road. If you know anything about this armed robbery, you are asked to call the Richland County Sheriff's Office. Even with dozens of signs and warnings, the infamous Olive Road Bridge is a dangerous magnet for truck drivers. Despite countless inspections from CSX and the city, no one wants to raise the overpass because it's an expensive fix. So is there any possible fix? Will Rio says red tape from federal regulations may be in the way.
When you hear Olive Road, you probably think of, well, the bridge right behind me falling victim to another box truck. And some of you, the drivers who come through this area, the families who live nearby, have ideas on how to fix this headache behind me. But the city of Augusta says it's not that easy.
It's happened too many times to count.
We're really, a little disappointed at this point.
Some would even say it happens all of the time.
We just kind of go through the same routine at this point.
John Ushry with the Augusta Traffic Engineering says at this point there's not much more they can do. So the Olive Road Bridge will continue to be
a headache.
Social media is suggesting hanging something above the road right before the bridge. So if drivers hit that, they'll know their vehicles are too tall to fit.
I'm very much against hanging something in the road because as soon as I do that, that's too low. It becomes Augusta's responsibility, and if somebody strikes that pipe or whatever it is that we hang in the road, it becomes our liability and our problem.
What about closing the road off?
If we closed it, there'd really only be one way in and one way out of that neighborhood if we did close it.
And emergency vehicles would take more time getting to where they need to go.
At this point, there's not a whole lot more we can do.
That's because the railroad company controls the bridge and the road under it.
The local government, Augusta, we have very little say in what they do and what they can and can't do. Even the state government has very little say in what they can and can't do. And so they're sort of off by themselves, regulated by the highest level of government.
In Augusta, Will Rio on your side.
Augusta Traffic Engineering says they're working with CSX on a solution and had talks about what to do, but there are no plans to make any changes right now. There's a big project in the works that could continue the transformation of downtown Evans. It all starts with plans for this Tempo by Hilton hotel that'll sit right in the heart of the Evans Towne Center area. This is a first look at that plan. It's far from a done deal, and Hallie Turner looks at some of the plans for that area.
I want you guys to see that this area behind me, we're behind the Performing Arts Center here in Columbia County, but this area right here could be the future home to a new hotel here in Columbia County. I'm pan this way. Let's pan this way and show them that. The goal is to give people more options to eat and visit and make Columbia County more of a destination spot.
When I was younger, I didn't have any of this out here, and we just all assumed that it was just going to be a big empty field for like the rest of our lives. It was here in like a blink of an eye.
It's almost like it happened overnight.
The idea behind Evans Society was in order to help develop this area that we're sitting in here with Goat Kick, and in restaurants such as Mirren, and then expanding later with our other projects.
With those projects now set to be ready by July, a conversation made reality. Now eyes are set on the next big project.
Our next project that's most exciting is this hotel project that we started approximately 2.5 years ago. And where we're at now is we have a concept and a plan.
A feasibility study done for the county shows the area could support a hotel. opening the door for more visitors while giving them a place to rest their heads.
112 rooms, a 5-star restaurant. We have a chef that has worked with the company that I'm working with out of Washington, D.C., who is a Michelin star caliber chef.
Giving visitors the new and improved Destination Evans experience.
The goal of the hotel was not to have just a simple in and out stay. We want this to become a destination, a fast growing city. It's the #1 city in the United States per Money magazine. We have well more than enough need to have this hotel.
And community members, a dream come true.
Evans, or this area specifically, is really great. It's growing. There's a lot of businesses coming in.
Now, again, this is not a done deal, but Dr. Bojeskill says he's hopeful it will happen. The investigators are still working through all of the details with the Development Authority and the county to solidify potential purchase of land and more before they move forward. Bojeskill tells me he hopes they'll know something before summer is over.
All right, thanks for that, Hallie. The Southeastern Development Company says the shells in Aiken for the Aiken Mall will be done in the next 3 to 4 months, and then tenants will start to move in. They're hopeful that some businesses will open by the end of the year. Our Alyssa Lyons has more.
The sign just over my shoulder reads, "No parking, fire lane." It stands tall now as one of the last pieces that the Aiken Mall was ever here. Now it acts as a sign of what's to come in Aiken.
And right on out we go.
Aiken is open for business, big business.
Even though there's almost 2 months of revenues yet to be reported, we're about 8% above.
There's a lot more of this.
First thing I do is go to the clearance racks.
And this.
Let's see. And the color, yeah.
Headed Aiken's way.
It'd be one-stop shop. And maybe a restaurant or two, that'd be great.
Because one stop is all some people have.
It takes away from family time first. And then you have to prioritize what you need, where you need to go, and make your trip count.
Teresa makes the trip once a week from Barnwell. Others are making Aiken home.
The Savannah River site, the so-called gray tsunami, as folks retire from the site, workers need to be hired to replace them. We're seeing younger workers come in. The climate and the cost of living here, I believe, is extremely good.
More people, more living space.
Village at Woodside, that is approximately 100 Class A apartments, again, market rate apartments. So that's coming in. There's other potential apartments on the books at Gregg Highway near the Robert M. Bell Parkway.
With more in mind.
We need some family-oriented things because, we're getting away from family, but and they seem to be getting some good food places here, but, if you have a one-stop shop, it always works better.
In Aiken, Alyssa Lyons on your side.
Meanwhile, the Regency Mall is still sitting vacant. Back in September of last year, we told you about plans to redevelop the area into Cardinal Town Square. City leaders promised new housing, retail space, and more. Since then, not much has changed in that area. While the owners and developers are still looking for retail or apartment vendors to fill the space, property owners say a charter school is still their top priority. Both the Augusta Economic Development Authority and Stephen Kendrick told us construction should start by the end of this year, but no word yet on when we're going to see those plans get going. A North Augusta staple is trying to preserve its nostalgic feel. The way they're doing it, a $40,000 grant. Our Emma Ellis spoke with the owner of Snowcap about how they plan to spend that money.
Since its opening in 1964, the Snowcap has been a staple for the people of North Augusta.
It has been incredible, the support that the community gives this restaurant, and we just want to show the same love back to the community.
With the money from the Backing Historic Small Restaurants grant, Snowcap owner Havard Ushery plans to add some renovations while keeping that historic feel.
We're going to improve some of the ordering boxes out front. There's an audio system we want to get. We have some tile work left to finish. There's a long list of things that we still want to do.
With the music playing over the sound system, the drive-in ordering parking spots, and the soda fountain, from the second you pull up to the drive-in, that 60s feel sets in.
That's our genre, is that nostalgia and that historic feel.
The drive-in also serves as a place for people with a love for historical cars to share their passion.
So every third Saturday we have a cruise in, so you get a lot of classic cars, everything from a Model A to, a newer Corvette.
This grant from American Express will provide the snowcap with the funds to keep this piece of North Augusta history in pristine condition. 25 historic small restaurants across the United States have been awarded the Backing Historic Small Restaurants grant for a total of $1 million in grant money. In North Augusta, Emma Ellis on your side.
All righty, thanks for that update there, Emma. Pretty cool. I've actually never been there. I've never been there. I know it's on the list to go to. Everybody always tells me how good it is, but one of these days I'll get out there. Zane and I were talking about that on the morning show today. Okay, Augusta leaders revisited the issue of flood water damaging the homes next to the Calhoun Expressway on Ellis Street, and it looks like they're not claiming responsibility for that damage. In an evaluation done by Cranston Engineering, they say water damage is not the main cause for structural issues to the homes on the street, pointing to homeowners for responsibility of handling that damage. This comes despite a dozen work orders from the engineering department last year to remove, clean, and repair the storm drain from its inability to contain water overflow. Former Commissioner Ben Hassan also weighed in last year that complaints have been coming in for more than a decade. Commissioner Jordan Johnson weighing in as well.
From Eve going up, behind those homes, from Eve Street on back, it's impossible for water to flow to the storm drain. I'm not an engineer, but I'm using just a little common sense.
Augusta's administration is going to work with contractors to see what other help they can offer Ellis Street and potentially bring back a proposal within 2 weeks. For the fourth time in a month, a rabid raccoon has been found in Columbia County. The county's health department said a raccoon was found during the day, and a neighbor at the Cottonwood subdivision off of Roser Road said it seemed to be sick. The raccoon was later captured by Animal Services and did test positive for rabies. Just last week, another raccoon was found in Lampkin Woods off Tubman Road. On May 24th, a raccoon was found on a public walking path near Seaton and Brentford Avenues. And then a few weeks after that, officials found a raccoon on Rhodes Farms off Evans Towne Road. Move on to a little state news here now, shall we? Georgia and South Carolina peach crops took a big hit this year. Our State House reporter Abby Kasoris checks in with how peach farmers are coping.
Middle Georgia is the top producer of peaches. Experts say 85 to 95% of the peach crop this year was lost after a cold snap in March.
I like the ice cream. That's my favorite.
For Amber and her family,
I got the big cup yesterday, so I got the little cup today.
Eating peach ice cream and buying peaches at Dickey Farms is a tradition.
And I want to come over here and enjoy what we've always done. It means a lot to us.
While there are a few peaches on the shelves, this year, Farmer Lee Dickey says they won't be shipping their sweet Middle Georgia peaches to grocery stores, just selling what they have here at the family farm.
And so in a normal year, we might pick 10,000 bins or so of peaches. This year, we may pick like 300 or 400 bins.
He estimates they lost 90% of their peach crop. The farm has been in the family for generations. This is the worst peach crop they've had in the last 20 years.
It's running irrigation or, wind fans. There's only about 130 peach trees per acre. And so that's not a lot of trees on an acre, and an acre is a lot of ground to kind of cover.
What happened this year isn't necessarily going to be repeated next year. And I think the peach farmers will likely have a better chance of getting a good crop in next year. But that's a long time to wait if all you grow is peaches.
Pam Knox, a crop specialist, says researchers are finding new methods to protect peach orchards, a cellulose that could protect the peach blossoms from frost, and genetic modifications to help peaches withstand drastic temperature changes. For the peach lovers here in Middle Georgia, they're just glad Dickey Farm still has some here at their farm.
It's good? Yeah.
People say the peaches this year are just as big and just as juicy. They just paid a little more. In Musella, I'm Abby Kasoris.
Yeah, and we could probably all expect to pay a little bit more this year for those peaches if there's not going to be a lot of them. 10,000, I think you said what, baskets normally, and then this year they're only doing 300 to 400. That is significant drop off. So hopefully we don't see as bad of a year next year. Thinking about it, the ability to see properly, to have glasses or wear contacts is a privilege not everybody has access to. That's why an Atlanta-based nonprofit called Prevent Blindness Georgia is on a mission to help bring the gift of vision to as many children as possible. Sawyer Bucky has that story.
We preserve sight and prevent blindness.
They work with children and with adults.
They can drive again, they can go back to work and feel like they're helping their family. They can go back and get their GED.
Recently, the nonprofit partnered with the Latin American Association and doctors from Georgia Eye Partners to gift vision care to as many children as possible.
Across the United States, 8% of all children will not pass their vision screening. Up in Whitfield and County and Dalton, 19% did not pass.
Students who needed glasses received 2 pairs, one for school, one for home.
We actually shine a light at the eye and figure out, based on how the light is moving, putting different lenses in front of the eye, what their prescription for glasses should be.
It takes a refractive picture of the pupils, and so there's your measurement.
Yeah, that looks like my contacts.
And see, you have your contacts in, so that means you passed.
The deal is that this is more than just giving kids a pair of glasses.
It's the difference between being able to see the board and answer the questions or read their paper to study. As these kids get older, their academic performance is deeply tied to the ability to see. In fact, many children are misdiagnosed with learning disorders when in fact their problems are with their senses, often sight, sometimes with hearing.
The nonprofit is trying to raise money for the 2023-2024 school year so they can have this same event for families in Whitfield County. Sawyer Bussey, Atlanta News First.
Apologies, Sawyer. Said your last name wrong. Been saying it wrong all this time. But yeah, pretty cool there that they're able to do that, and the number is kind of staggering at how many students don't pass that first eye exam. All right, let's move along here. A farm growing in the heart of urban Atlanta is gaining national attention for helping teach others how to work on the land. Let's take a look at how Tracy Hutchins at Patchwork Farms is keeping America's history of farming alive.
We've got lots of carrots. We're getting ready to replant arugula, a salad mix, baby greens.
Farming is the lifeblood that keeps Jamila Norman going.
These are pear trees and some fig trees here.
She left her job as an engineer and started farming in 2010, buying this parcel in southwest Atlanta in 2016, and it's been growing ever since. Jamila's even gaining national attention, teaching others how to work the land on her Magnolia Network show, Homegrown.
You see that? That is a carrot, a brand new one right there. This is where the fruits of labor really pay off for Jamila. On this 2-acre parcel of land, she grows more than 80 crops.
It's the foundation of any civilization, right? And that was knowledge that we had, and we brought to this country, and the country utilized.
Jamila's family is from the Caribbean, but she knows all too well the tainted history African Americans have with farming. During centuries of enslavement, blacks were forced to harvest cash crops like tobacco, cotton, and sugar. And once freed from slavery, racism and discrimination became continuous roadblocks for blacks trying to make a living from the land.
You do have to mentally divorce yourself from that history, because I'm like, I own this land. I control what happens here, right? We can rest when we want to rest. I'm meeting a lot of young people that are coming back to it and super interested in it. And they see the value. So I'm inspired. I'm inspired for the future. I'm hopeful. I think we're moving in a great direction.
Patchwork City Farms is the star of an HBO show about transforming outdoor spaces called Homegrown. I think you saw a couple clips of it right there in that piece. Well, after a 16.5-hour meeting with plenty of public comment, Atlanta City Council members gave the final approval for a funding package to pay for a controversial public safety training center. The council voted 11-4 in favor of the funding, and the vote came just before 5:30 Tuesday morning. Rebecca Schramm has the latest.
City council members and attendees ended up pulling an all-nighter after a tense meeting that started at 1 p.m. yesterday.
I will not beg. I am not tired. I am afraid.
After a 14.5-hour meeting of mostly public comments, at 5:30 in the morning, it was finally time for Atlanta City Council members to vote on a funding package for a $90 million public safety training center. Then the vote count showed up on the screen. And the protesters began chanting, "Cop City will never be built."
The vote is 11 yeas, 4 nays. The motion to adopt as amended carries.
Atlanta police officers positioned themselves so that city council members could exit the chambers through a side door and wouldn't have to come face to face with the angry protesters. Outside, exhausted protesters calmed down and headed home.
We did all we could, and it's like all of us are really passionate and we all really wanted to be there. They seemed really bored. They don't care about us.
Some vowed to regroup and keep protesting.
I think that protests are the American way, straight back to the Boston Tea Party. I think that protesting is the most patriotic thing you can possibly do as an American.
Lost in all this were the less vocal people of Atlanta who support a world-class training center for police officers and firefighters. Those supporters will now get their wish. At City Hall in Atlanta, Rebecca Schramm, Atlanta News First.
I believe the price tag on that one could have cost taxpayers up to $67 million out there in Atlanta. So I'm sure we haven't heard the end of that, so we'll see what comes out of that as it continues on. Okay, the parents of a teen boy with autism who drowned at Jekyll Island are speaking out about his death. First responders found Connor Mathis's body last Tuesday in the island's surf after he went missing from church camp. Flynn Snyder has the story.
For Carla and Kelly Mathis, their son's visit to a summer camp turned tragic.
This has been the hardest week of my life.
Their son, 16-year-old Connor, was attending camp last week on Jekyll Island. His mother says he'd only been there one day when he was reported missing on Monday. Connor's disappearance caused a search effort spanning multiple agencies. The Camden County Sheriff's Office eventually finding Connor's body on Tuesday in the island's surf. His mother saying investigators told her his death was an accidental drowning.
They told us that they found him. He had drowned. And everything just went kind of foggy for me after that.
The Mathis family says Connor had a high-functioning form of autism.
If there was ever anything that he felt that he could not do or that would be too much for him, he was always very transparent and honest with me and his father. That's why we were very excited about him being open to wanting to go and sign up for a summer camp.
In the wake of their son's death, an outpouring of support for the Mathis family. It's help like that Connor's father says they've relied on to cope.
Absolutely, we are devastated at the cause of it, but the attention we've received and things of that nature as far as the support, man, you couldn't ask for any better. Yeah.
Still, the pain of Connor's death is palpable on his parents' faces, but they say they wanted to come forward to talk about their son and remember him as a sports-loving teen whose smile lit up a room.
When I see a picture of his face and I see that smile, it does something here. And I feel that that smile of his lets me know that things will be okay.
They're now relying on support from friends, family, and their faith to carry on. Reporting in Savannah, Flynn Snyder, WTOC News.
There's a heartbreaking story there, and continue to pray for that family as they go through this tragic time. Let's move across the river now to South Carolina. Governor McMaster again urging South Carolina lawmakers to toughen up penalties for illegal gun possession and to reform the state's bond process. Now another prominent South Carolina leader is putting his weight behind that call to action too. Our State House reporter Mary Green has the details.
Right now, South Carolina's General Assembly is in a special session that doesn't have an end date. Governor Henry McMaster says lawmakers should not adjourn for the year until they get these bills to his desk.
Close that revolving door. How long we go wait?
It's a plea Governor Henry McMaster has been making for months. On Tuesday, he was joined by State Trooper B.A. Frazier, who was shot in the face during an April traffic stop in Bamberg County. Investigators say the accused shooter had a stolen gun and was out on bond in Georgia.
He never should have been stopped for speeding that night by Trooper Frazier. He never should have made contact with him. He shouldn't have been out there. That's when you really realize this is just senseless. This just shouldn't happen.
The governor is urging lawmakers to toughen up the penalties for possessing illegal guns. The House put these penalties in a larger bill it passed that would allow adults in South Carolina to carry guns without needing a permit or training. The Senate has yet to debate that controversial permitless carry bill, and instead it added the illegal gun penalties to another bill to criminalize fentanyl trafficking. But those penalties would only apply to people convicted of certain drug crimes. McMaster says that's not enough.
Why limit it to just fentanyl crimes? How about rape? How about assault and battery? How about murder?
The governor is also urging lawmakers to get a bond reform bill to him and close what he's characterized as a revolving door of people who commit crimes while out on bond for other crimes.
We know that these career criminals are going to do it again.
This week, South Carolina Attorney General Alan Wilson and SLED Chief Mark Keel penned this letter to lawmakers, saying they need to pass this bill to establish much-needed standards for electronically monitoring people out on bond.
When someone fails to do their job by monitoring violent criminals who are back out in society when they're out on bond, that we actually can hold them accountable.
The bond reform bill is closer to the finish line as it's already passed both the House and the Senate, but in different forms. A smaller group of lawmakers has been tasked with negotiating a compromise, but a meeting of that committee has yet to be publicly scheduled. Reporting from the State House, I'm Mary Green.
Governor McMaster called the lawmakers to the special session last month, but the legislature can go home when it chooses. When McMaster was asked if he'd call lawmakers back to Columbia if they adjourned without finalizing the bills, he said that is something they are contemplating. So we'll have to see what comes out of that. I'm sure Mary will continue to follow that diligently for us. She does a great job. Chilling 911 phone calls released from a mass shooting earlier this year in Columbia, South Carolina. Ty Wilson has that from the capital city.
It all starts with a simple call to 911 from a mother who's at the park to pick up her daughter.
I'm at Middle Lake Park. There's a bunch of kids here from the high school. They had prom tonight. They're out here in the dock at the park smoking weed and you might want to send a bunch of people out here because these kids are about to get in some big trouble.
How many people?
Over 100.
Then, minutes later, all hell breaks loose.
911, where's the emergency?
Yes, I just was calling a few minutes ago. There's a shooting at the park. People are down. Well, they shooting. No. Middle Lake Park. I just got the phone with the cop. Oh, my God. This is insane. People, there's a shooting at the park. There's a real estate here.
Yeah. Anyone's been hit?
It looks like it. I don't know. They're still shooting.
People start flooding 911 with desperate calls. 11 people were hurt, 9 shot.
911, where's your emergency?
Hey, my best friend got shot in Meadow Lake. Can you pull up with me? Meadow Lake, she got shot her foot.
Ma'am, you said staff?
Meadow Lake. Meadow Lake, it's like 600 Beckham or some shit. Someone got shot over there too.
The scene, chaos. One frantic call after another.
911, where is your emergency?
I don't know where I'm at. My car just got shot up.
Your car did what, ma'am?
My car just got shot up. Somebody was just shooting at my car. My friend got grazed by bullets.
The same young lady, overcome by the situation, eventually breaking down.
Bro!
Ma'am, what's wrong? Talk to me. All right, man. The police should be there to you shortly, okay? Are you okay? Are you hurt or anything? You're not hurt?
Just chilling stuff to listen to, and for all those kids to have to go through that, you can hear the fear and the panic in their voices. It's scary, scary situation. Senator Lindsey Graham talking about an arrest warrant issued against him in Russia. The warrant was issued for Graham following the comments related to the war in Ukraine. In an edited video of his meeting with Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky, Graham said that, quote, "The Russians are dying," went on to say the U.S.'s money has never been better spent. And while he appeared to have made the remarks in different parts of the conversation, the short video by Ukraine's presidential office put them next to each other. Despite the warrant, Graham says he will continue to talk about what he believes is right.
My crime was speaking truth to power. Russia has illegally invaded Ukraine. Putin's committed war crimes on an industrial scale, and I'm going to keep talking about it. Freedom allows you to say the things I said, and we live in a country where you can criticize your leaders.
Graham also says it's in the best interest of the U.S. national security that the war in Ukraine ends. The South Carolina Supreme Court has agreed to take up the abortion bill lawsuit. Oral arguments are set for later this month. That's the 27th. Last month, a lower court blocked the ban's enforcement, and in January, the Supreme Court struck down a similar 6-week ban. After signing the bill into law last month, Governor McMaster issued this statement saying, quote, "This is a great day for life in South Carolina, but the fight is not over. We stand ready to defend the legislation against any challenges and are confident we will succeed." The governor also commenting, saying he's deploying 150 South Carolina National Guardsmen to Texas because the border crisis affects all states, not just those directly on the border.
And we quickly agreed that South Carolina would do its part because those drugs, the problems coming across the border, notably the drugs, don't just stay there. They go everywhere.
He says the Guardsmen will not necessarily be on the front lines, but they will take over a lot of the duties to free up Texas officers. He also says the Guardsmen will not be there permanently. Yesterday was the 79th anniversary of D-Day. Nearly 160,000 Allied troops stormed the beaches of Normandy, France on June 6, 1944. It was the largest naval, air, and land assault in military history. More than 2,500 Americans were killed in that invasion that led to the liberation of France from the Nazis and ended World War II in Europe. On Omaha Beach yesterday morning, relatives and friends of those heroes gathered to remember their loved ones. Some wore the uniforms of the time and left mementos on the beach there. They say they're determined to never forget the sacrifices made that day.
To the veterans of World War II, we salute you. You saved the world. We must merely defend it. So may God bless the American and Allied troops who fought and fell some 79 years ago.
Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin met with World War II veterans in Normandy to thank them for their service. Only a few thousand D-Day veterans are believed to still be alive. We do have that one here in Thompson, Louis Graziano, who we did talk to. You can find that story up on our website. The Republican presidential field is growing this week. At least 3 more hopefuls jumping in the race. Former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie announced he is heading to the presidential race, filing his paperwork yesterday, and he had a rally yesterday evening in New Hampshire. Today, as of this morning, just happened this morning, former Vice President Mike Pence announced his presidential bid after officially filing his paperwork the other day. With those two, plus North Dakota Governor Doug Burgums, who's also expected to make an announcement tomorrow, the Republican field will be in the double digits. Burgums' announcement is supposed to come today, actually, not tomorrow. As it stands right now, former President Donald Trump has a massive lead in the polls for nomination.
Christie's great, too. I think the more the competition, the better we can see who Donald Trump really is and who these guys are.
Speculation around another potential Republican hopeful, New Hampshire Governor Chris Sununu ended this week. In the Washington Post, he said he will not jump into that race. The White House launched a new website to track President Biden's Invest in America work. Invest.gov shows all the projects funded by his domestic agenda. It includes the Inflation Reduction Act, the CHIPS and Science Act, and the American Rescue Plan. Biden is looking to highlight his domestic agenda after weeks of being consumed by the debt ceiling debate. He's set to convene his second cabinet meeting of the year this afternoon. I think that was yesterday afternoon, actually. Okay. There are growing fears of an environmental catastrophe unfolding in Ukraine. Floodwater is threatening thousands of people after a critical dam on the front lines was sabotaged. We're learning those floodwaters are expected to peak in the coming hours. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky blamed Russian terrorists for blowing up the dam, calling it the largest man-made environmental disaster in Europe in decades. Deborah Pata has all the new developments from Ukraine.
The blast smashed through the dam wall, causing a massive breach as one section collapsed completely, sending torrents of water surging towards the southern city of Kherson, less than 50 miles away. Homes partially submerged, some even floating away, and once fertile agricultural ground now a soggy wasteland. The flooding has forced the evacuation of thousands of people. Some fled under fire, others scrambled to protect their animals, like Tetiana, who frantically searched for her pets, begging one dog not to drown and searching for others in her waterlogged home. The dam holds back a reservoir containing about the same volume of water as the Great Salt Lake in Utah and is important for the safe running of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, which is also Kremlin-controlled. The United Nations Atomic Energy Body says that plant is safe for now. But Ukraine is furious. From official outrage in Kyiv with President Zelensky accusing Russia of a brutal war crime, to anger and loathing in Kherson. We were under occupation for 9 months, said Irina. Now we have been flooded by these wretched occupiers. The Kremlin denies any involvement. What both sides can agree on is that this has triggered an environmental disaster, endangering crops, drinking water, and an entire ecosystem, and a humanitarian crisis for the people of Kherson, who endured months of Russian fire only to be chased from their homes by rising water.
White House National Security Council spokesman John Kirby says they're assessing reports that Russia is responsible for that blast. While they can't say what happened, the damage to the Ukrainian people and to the region will be significant. Prince Harry arrived in London's High Court yesterday, taking the witness stand in his years-long battle against Britain's tabloid media. There have been several convictions in recent years of British tabloids hacking into celebrities' phones and publishing what they found. Victims include the royal family, with newspapers paying out tens of millions of dollars to victims. Prince Harry's allegations date back to the 1990s.
He just wants to hold the tabloid press, and in this case the Mirror, to account. He's livid, frankly.
Prince Harry's cross-examination was the first time a senior member of the British royal family has had to do so since the 1800s. Microsoft has agreed to pay $20 million to settle a privacy dispute. The FTC says the tech giant collected personal information on children through its Xbox Live gaming service and didn't let parents know the full extent of that data. The FTC says kids under 13 may have shared pictures, video, and audio of themselves on their account profiles along with their real names. The FTC also says Microsoft kept personal information of kids who started to sign up for the Xbox Live but never finished that process. As part of the settlement, the company has agreed to delete that data. No comment yet from Microsoft. A young painting prodigy is using her talents to raise money for nonprofits, but that's not the only art she's mastered. Taylor Burke shares this 6-year-old's serious skills.
If you were to just listen in, you would never know this violinist has a fraction of the experience of a musician playing in a symphony. But music isn't the only skill Juliet has under her belt.
When I go somewhere, I just take a picture with my mind, and then I can remember it, and then I can come home, and then I can just paint it.
At just 8 months old, Juliet began to paint. Of all her hobbies, she tells me why this one is her favorite.
No one tells me what to do, and I can just paint whatever I want.
An aspiring doctor, Leon wants to help people with cancer find a donor match. Until she gets her PhD, she's selling her paintings and gives the proceeds to nonprofits.
So Juliet is very self-driven in her own goals.
Willa and Jonathan Leong are Juliet's mom and dad. They parent the same way any normal parent would.
You still have to be a parent. You still have to teach manners. You have to teach, all the things necessary to be a person in this world.
At the end of the day, they want what all parents want, for their child to have a life of happiness and satisfaction.
It's not family. It's beyond family. The family is here. That happens every day. But why are you? Who are you? Can you help the community? Can you help the world? So we want her to be a child of the world.
But don't expect this 6-year-old to retire anytime soon. Juliet has big plans for her future.
I want to be a doctor, violinist, artist, pianist, and zookeeper, and there's too many things.
But she is well on her way. Amazing talent coming out of that young girl and a big heart as well. And that's really what it's all about. In the last year, Juliet has performed for the Oakland A's, Texas Rangers, Reno Aces, and Sacramento Cats. She even holds the honor as the youngest violinist to solo at Carnegie Hall. So she is like I said, going places. A Massachusetts woman working at her dream job, or was working at her dream job when motherhood came calling. Isabel Miller stepped away from her role as a fashion designer to raise her son. Then, as Doug Meehan tells us, her son led her back to work.
So this fabric is organic, 95% cotton, 5% lycra.
When it comes to fabrics and designs, there can be never enough for Isabel Miller.
You have rolls of material everywhere.
Yes.
I mean, like everywhere.
Yes. So these are probably most of our current season fabrics.
Isabel is the owner of Hedgehog Belly Design, an infant and children's wear clothing company she founded in her hometown of Framingham.
Ever since growing up, I probably have known that I wanted to have a store or my own company.
For Isabel, the journey to creating her own company first started in New York City. After graduating college with a degree in fashion design and production, she landed a job at Marc Jacobs, working in their brand new children's wear line. Burberry in London was the next stop, but when motherhood called, it was time to come home and eventually embark on her own clothing line and business.
I went from having a team, like of people, so I would just sketch my idea and be like, here, make it. And now I'm like drafting the pattern, I'm making the prototype, I'm braiding out all the patterns.
Isabel admits her clothing line was sort of a happy accident. She was making outfits for her son when other moms started to take notice.
So I made him a ton of pants and like all these different cute prints. I designed this one pair of pants. I would send him to daycare and people were like, oh, where did you get those pants? Those are so cute. This is the harem pant. They are our #1 seller.
Isabel says when it comes to creating a successful kids' clothing company, the key is to remember not only who's buying it, but who's wearing it as well.
Everything is always machine washable. Everything is always like soft to the touch and comfortable. And I try to always have everything be natural fibers or predominantly natural fibers.
What's it like being able to run your own company in the town you grew up in?
It's crazy. I don't think I ever thought that like that would happen.
An interesting fact, Isabel's great uncle Rudolph and her great aunt Nancy are Rudolph and Nancy Talbot. They are the same Talbots who own the clothing store. So, clothing line's kind of running the genes there for her. So congratulations on starting that up. Pretty cool the way she was able to do that. Okay. More Americans say they want to grow old in the comfort of their own homes. A new study shows half admit they have not taken steps towards this goal. In this Watching Your Wallet, consumer investigator Rachel DePompa talks to an expert about how you can age in peace, in place. Not peace, well, peace too, but place.
Nearly 9 in 10 Americans between the ages of 50 and 80 tell AARP they would like to age in the comfort of home, but not enough people are taking steps to do just that. Steve Ackerman is the CEO of Spectrum Medical, a home medical equipment company based out of Washington, D.C. He says the earlier you can make a plan for growing older at home, the better.
The planning aspect for yourself can, very likely start with how you handle it with your parents or other people that are involved in your life. And it's one of those things where it just doesn't pay to all of a sudden have it come along and surprise you.
Ackerman says historically people do better at home in a much more caring and comforting environment. And if you've eventually paid off your home, it can be much more affordable to stay there. Assisted living is often a big expense people do not think about until they have to. Also, if you want to stay in your home as you age, you need to think about what improvements you need to do inside of it so you can stay there.
You fall down, you break your hip, and it's the beginning of the end. So you really need to be realistic about what assistive devices are out there, and very simple ones that can kind of keep you safe. And things like stairs and things like bathrooms need to be addressed.
You might one day need to replace stairs with ramps or add railings inside bathrooms. You might also plan to one day purchase a local life-saving dialing service to help you in an emergency. All costs to consider as you plan to stay in your house for another 30 or 40 years. With this Watching Your Wallet, I'm Rachel DePompa.
Apple pulling back the curtain for a new product that promises to take you into another dimension, an augmented reality headset that puts a computer on your head. It's Apple's most expensive gadget yet. Consumer tech reporter Jamie Tucker takes a look at the new Vision Pro headset and whether it's the future or Apple's most expensive failure ever.
Apple introducing several new products at its spring event, but everyone paying attention wanted to see the one more thing. Apple's been working on a headset for several years, and now we know what it's called and what it's going to do. Apple calls Vision Pro its most ambitious product ever, may also be its riskiest. In its announcement, Apple never called it a virtual reality headset, but rather a headset computer and augmented reality, which means you can still see your surroundings while you use it. The emphasis is on productivity and entertainment rather than gaming.
Your surroundings become an infinite canvas.
Even demonstrating how people can see multiple screens by turning their heads, showing a man wearing the headset walking through the office. It also showed how the Vision Pro allows users to watch movies immersed in a theater-like setting and joining FaceTime calls.
You can join a group call and see everyone life-size.
And how do they see you? Well, this is where it gets amazing, if not a little weird. The headset scans your face and movements ahead of time.
It delivers a natural representation which dynamically matches your facial and hand movement.
And there are no controllers, but users will be able to click icons and control the computer using only their eyes and fingers. Virtual reality has been around for years without ever gaining a huge audience outside of video gamers. Headsets are uncomfortable, the battery life isn't good enough to watch a long movie. So can Apple do what other companies haven't when it comes to headsets? Apple doesn't have product failures. The iPhone, Apple Watch, and iPad, all huge success, but it may be difficult to gain a huge audience for the Vision Pro with a starting price of $3,500. That's What the Tech. I'm Jamie Tucker.
It's a lot. It's expensive. I don't know if it's worth it. Definitely not worth it right now. Maybe when that price drops a little bit, it starts to fine tune. It's like spending $800 for the iPhone 1 when it came out. Like, yeah, it was cool at the time, but now here we are, however many years later, and it's like, all right, I'll just wait till the next one comes out. I feel like it's going to be probably kind of the same thing. But Apple's put out some good products over the years, man. So who knows? This could be the future. All right, that's going to take us, that's going to take us to 9 o'clock. So be sure, again, download the streaming app on your favorite streaming device. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. See a couple people sitting here watching now. Appreciate you tuning in. Morning Mix starts in about 2.5 minutes. So if you're on the app, just stick around. This will go away in a second, and the Morning Mix will pop up. If you're on YouTube, head on over to the app or the TV side of things. You can watch Morning Mix with Zaina and Cliff there. I'll be back here on the News 12 Now desk for a little bit more later on this morning. See you back here then.